AI might co-produce the perfect soundtrack for your life. We've always believed that music was the most human form of expression, so why does AI-generated music move us to tears? Technology, once seen as mere imitation, is now evolving into a creative partner, amplifying musical ideas for everyone. Forget needing years of training or million-dollar studios, AI is eliminating both barriers overnight. These tools are letting anyone translate their vision, their mood, their craziest ideas into sound. What happens when the gap between what you can imagine musically and what you can create shrinks to almost nothing? Welcome to episode 38 of Tool Use, the weekly conversation about AI tools and strategies to empower forward-thinking minds, brought to you by Anetic. I'm Mike Bird, and this week we're joined by Phlo, a musician, tinkerer, and staple in the AI engineer community. Phlo, welcome to Tool Use.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So do you want to tell me about your background and how you got into AI?
Yeah, so it mostly comes from me tinkering around with Python. I was licensing music online, and a huge part of that process is very tedious. You're doing a lot of the same tasks, uploading artwork and music to multiple websites. And then, like, for me, it was like also launching advertising around those that music. And so much of that process, like, it was like taking me longer to upload music than it was to actually create the music. So I started tinkering around with Python. I asked around, I had a couple of technical friends, and they told me Python would be good for scripting, stuff like that. So luckily, like, the language of AI mostly is Python. So I had a little bit of a head start, but essentially I actually had something prepared for this. I wrote a tweet. I'm almost coming up on my second anniversary, where I essentially joined the Latent Space podcast Paper Club. That's really where I kind of like cut my teeth and learned how to decipher kind of like a lot of this fluff or hype from like true machine learning models and like the stuff that really matters, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So it was that, and then I also joined a community called Noose Research before it was called Noose Research, and also learned how to like fine tune models, and again, that's kind of like where I got my start, and this was around August of 2023. I was paying attention to the AI space before that. Was really into TTS models, voice cloning. I was also into they didn't really have music generation, but they did have where you could generate drum patterns or loops, if you will. And I had been paying attention to that since early 2023, along with ChatGPT as it released. So I had been paying attention to the space, but I had not really dove in until around this time, almost 2 years ago. It's kind of how I really got into the AI space and started like creating content and I guess being known as an AI engineer.
Love that, man. Yeah, and you mentioned two of my favorite online communities. On Discord, Latent Space has like a lot of alpha in there. Every Wednesday, the Paper Club. And Noose is just one of my favorite organizations, pushing the boundary on open source and really just trying to make sure it's disseminated to everyone, let us all benefit from it. So you mentioned like the evolution of paying attention to text to speech and other types of aspect to music generation. How has music generation evolved with AI? Has it been like one of those things like the ChatGPT moment when it just exploded out of nowhere, or have you noticed like a gradual progression with it?
Yeah, I definitely think Suno and Udio coming online and making their services available was like the ChatGPT music moment for music. I think Stable Audio Open, that model also being openly available that you can fine tune and download the weights for, was another moment where I saw a lot of people tinkering where they would not have. I think that was a special moment for me because I got to tinker a lot myself at that time. But I definitely think in terms of like mainstream people really paying attention to the space, those were definitely big moments. And I would also say, I think I was a bit early, but what one of the moments that really piqued my interest was there was a guy named Roberto Nixon who showed a demo of how you could, or how he was cloning Kanye West's voice at the time, and he made his own like cover song, or like it was a really an original song using Kanye West's voice, and he showed the entire process, the model that he used, where he downloaded it from, how he trained the voice by getting the audio clips of Kanye West. It was insane. That's what really piqued my interest a couple years ago. But I would definitely say the ChatGPT moment of music was Suno and Udio kind of like competing back and forth, lowering their prices, like making sure they offer, different features are definitely huge moments. I will also say, because I thought about this recently, I think that the music space probably is not as profitable as like just regular text models or multimodal models. And I think the progress there is a lot slower. I also think there's all kinds of like I don't want to say moral dilemmas, but there's all kinds of I guess the word I'm trying to think of is like there's a lot of uncertainty around what it means to train these models and if they're using copyrighted music or not. There's like some lawsuits going on right now, so I think the progress is just a lot slower because people are like tiptoeing around, for lack of a better word. But in terms of like the progress initially was like an explosion because wow, this is a new technology, and now I would say that they're more so kind of settling into how do we integrate this AI with the tools that already exist to create music is kind of like I think where we're headed. But as far as progress goes, like that was definitely a huge moment for me.
Yeah, yeah, getting everything integrated is going to be massively important because it's easy for people to kind of go use one tool, get one thing. That's how I kind of use Suno. But being able to integrate into a workflow, say you want to, actually, we'll touch more of that later. What I am curious about is the current state of AI gen music because we've talked about Suno making a complete new song from scratch. But I also remember the first time I heard, I think it was Frank Sinatra singing Lil Jon, and I was just like, this is incredible. Like it was one of those moments where you're like, oh man, like all of a sudden every barrier just got broken down, and we can turn any song that we want into existence. So what are the different avenues people can play with to actually explore like AI generated music?
I would say the most popular tools right now. I think Suno actually has like is more popular than Udio, but those are kind of like the main tools that you want to go to. For it's accessible to anyone. You go there if you have a Gmail account or an Apple account, an email account. Period. You can go sign up for these services for free and generate a couple songs every single day. So those are the services I think are most accessible. If you are, let's say you are already a producer or an artist, a musician, and you want to be able to feed some of your own creations into those services, you can. But I think where the real control comes in, like if you're already used to working with a digital audio workstation like a Logic Pro or a Garage Band or a FL Studio, Ableton Live, I think you also could benefit from really playing around with some of the open source models. And I think, yeah, so the open source models that I have listed here are Stable Audio Open. Um, we have the way, so this foundation, this research lab that created this model says that it's pronounced yeah, even though it's spelled Y-U-E. But this is another model that you can kind of play around with on your own hardware, but you can download the weights and play around with it and fine tune it at home, as well as Diff Rhythm is another model. So I think those are the outlets for if you're hardcore and you're really into this space and you do have good hardware. When I say good hardware, I mean typically like an NVIDIA GPU or even some of these like Stable Audio Open is also compatible with MLX. So if you have a really beefy Mac machine, a MacBook Pro that has a lot of unified RAM, you also can run these models at home. But I would say, to kind of refer back to the initial answer, the most accessible is going to be, I would say, Suno, Udio. Stable Audio actually has an online version, but it's mostly, again, for producers, truth be told. And then Riffusion is a new model or service that kind of like stepped onto the scene that is really, really useful. So I think those are the places where you can kind of like go get into these things.
Nice. I've only used to know personally. Refusion, I'm hearing about for the first time from you. So, would you mind kind of going through the difference between these different things? Are they just kind of like the same thing repackaged? Do they have different strengths or weaknesses? What would drive someone to choose one over the other?
I would say the way that I think about Udo versus Suno specifically, because those are the top two, is like Udio's more like a songwriting partner, in my opinion. The way that just to answer the question initially, they're pretty much all the same thing. You type in text, you deliver audio, and then you get back audio. It's essentially kind of like how it goes. And sometimes you can combine the two. You can combine lyrics with like a guitar lick that you played or a piano riff that you created on your own, or you can provide just the lyrics, or you can provide literally a simple text prompt like, hey, create a birthday song for my daughter. But all of them at their core are the same. The mechanics behind them, the UI are a little bit different. So that's where you get into like personal preference, and that's what I'll kind of explain here. But like for the most part, they are the same deliverables, if that makes sense. But the models behind them are different. And that's the thing too, like with these proprietary services and models like Udio, Suno, and Riffusion, they do not make it, and I think for fear of litigation, to be honest with you, but they do not make it public what exactly their software stack is, especially when it comes to the models. But there's a lot of speculation around them. Suno in particular was created by the same research lab that created Suno Bark, as well as Chirp, I think is the name of their other model. So you can kind of like do a little bit of background and see where these things come from. But what they are today is not publicly available right now, at least in terms of the models themselves. But this is how I like to think about them. I break them down as like Udio is more like a songwriting partner in my opinion. It especially if you're in the free tier, if you're not paying for an Udio account, it generates 30-second chunks of music. I think they actually have an experimental model that's available now, even if you don't have a paid account. But anyways, that's pretty much the core of Udio is like you kind of create and craft the music as you go with the model, in tune with the model, if that makes sense. Um, where I think of Suno more like an in-house music producer. If you are a songwriter or someone who doesn't have a lot of experience with crafting music, or maybe you don't know the technical terms to describe BPMs and like the key that the song should be in, or chords, how to put those together, Suno pretty much takes care of that for you. And the way that I think or the way that I hear the music that comes out of Suno, especially these days, is it's very like top 40-ish, polished. I think you have to go above and beyond and go out of your way to get it to create anything that's like very grungy or unpolished, if that makes sense. And recently they've improved the song structure and some of the timing of Suno. But anyways, that's how I think about Suno in terms of use cases when I'm looking to create music. And then Riffusion, I think, is like an AI sound designer. The UI is actually very interesting, but I think the model behind it creates a spectrogram of music initially as it's generating the audio, whereas Suno and Udio are either transformer or diffusion based. I think Riffusion is also diffusion based, but they just go about creating the music a little bit differently. But for all intents and purposes, you log into these services. You have a little box where you type in some text or some lyrics and maybe a mood for the song and then a genre, and they spit out music. So they are, essentially the same in that sense from a user experience.
Nice. And yeah, that aligns with my experience with Suno because I have very little musical background and I can kind of just hop on and say, hey, uh, tonight the it's a hockey game. The Leafs and the Canadians are playing, and my dad's a fan of one or the other. I'm like, make a trash talking song, rip on Montreal, and then I just make it rock, and then I send it to him, and it's done. And it's something that's enjoyable, fun. It has no real longevity to it, but it's just a fun little piece. There was also a Suno song I heard. I think it was on one of their creator spotlight libraries or something, and it was a mix of blues, ska, and reggae. And there was a portion of it where it was like a live performance, and the audience actually sung a line, and that blew my mind because it was just a completely different paradigm from just having a single singer, maybe even like a duet go through. And this was just something that was completely out of what I expected to be. What other types of either unique features or control do people have over the music they create through this more like introductory level of music generation?
Yeah, Suno has greatly improved this. Like, so I remember saying this on stage when I did the workshop last year that like creators are gonna want more, even people without the music experience, like who maybe don't have a music background, or are gonna want more control than the models give right now, than the user interfaces give right now. And I think Suno's done a great job of like creating. I don't think it's a full digital audio workstation in the sense of like an FL Studio or an Ableton Live, but they're getting there. They're getting much closer to where you generate the song start to finish, and let's say there's one piece that you don't like a lyric you want to change, or you want the key to change on a certain part of a song, or whatever it may be. Like it just doesn't sound right to you as you listen. You now can go into Suno, and we'll go over this a little bit later, but you can go into Suno, highlight a section, and say change this specifically. It's still hit or miss, but they've gotten so much farther in the last year in terms of like being able to edit and that fine tuned control. I think is like what I'm getting at here. So I have a slightly different approach because I basically take the music offline and then use offline tools like Ultimate Vocal Remover or UVR5 to give myself stems, and then you really can get creative in digital audio workstations with that stuff. You can EQ and there's just all kinds of like techniques you can use for editing the music once you take it offline. But I think for most people, they're not gonna want to download the song and spend 2 hours tweaking it like most musicians will. You know what I mean? But they're getting it's just becoming so much easier within those tools to get that process done, like making those changes. Stable Audio Open is actually really, really great for this too, because you're not really generating full songs with Stable Audio. It's more so like pieces of sound that you can then layer yourself. So that's another approach that you can take to editing. But yeah, for the most part, for beginners or people that just kind of like want a light, easy method for being able to edit, Suno has built this in. I think I don't have nowhere near as much experience with this in Udio, but Udio is also building that out. And I saw Riffusion was really surprising to me because like the last couple of days is the first time I had used Riffusion, and they also have basically caught up to where Suno is in terms of editing within the service itself. So they're all kind of like making it easier to get that done.
Nice. And I know with custom mode, you can put in your own lyrics and whatnot. Do you know, are there keywords? Like, for example, could I trigger it being a bridge so things slightly change? Or could I say, insert guitar solo here? Like, does it have that level of control?
Yes, and there are people that I call from the Suno and Udio communities, like in their Discord, that I call like prompt masters. I actually have a good example of this. That one guy, I think his name, how you pronounce it, is Elgarath, if I'm not mistaken. And man, he is like in terms of being able to tell the model to craft music a certain way, his prompts are I think almost anything he produces on his page, if you go look how he actually prompted the lyric section, it's so informative. It's so I love looking to go look at his creations, his generation. So without playing the song, it makes more sense if we can listen to it and you can kind of hear it at the same time. But his prompt, like the way that he crafts the sections of the song via lyric is insane to me. This is one example. The other example I have is So this one was really cool too because in the lyrics you typically just put song sections like you say the bridge, the hook, the chorus. But he put woman on the phone and then man on the phone, and the model actually generated that, like them saying these pieces. There's another Udio song that does this really well. Like it's in terms of like an intro. I don't know if you're a fan of like Bruno Mars, but it seems like he does this on the beginning of his songs a lot. And it was like the perfect like Bruno Mars intro to a song. Like they did it perfectly. And this is model generated. You know what I mean? Like they just type in the lyric section, and the model is able to do that. These are the best examples I can think of like people making the most of the lyric section when it comes to like directing the model. There's a couple of other people like this in the community, but man, guys like this go above and beyond in terms of like what's possible with the lyric section.
Yeah, I've actually never seen people like stack tags to like kind of
Yes.
really customize a section. This is super cool.
Yeah, I think that's what I need to go through and like compile a list. This has kind of been like a me just being a geek and like going to look at different people's profiles and like you see a person talking a lot in Discord and you're like, let me click on his profile and you go see what he's generated. But there's definitely some prompt master like stuff that I've never would have, and I've been writing music for my entire life. Like it's been 20 years since I wrote my first song, and I would have never thought to have crafted this way. You know what I mean when speaking to a model. I've done a lot of cool things with like lyrics and generations, but nothing like this until I saw stuff like this from people in the community. So there's definitely a lot of cool stuff you can do with the lyric section.
Do you ever use a model to help you with your lyrics? Me not being a music writer, I'll sometimes just take what's generated from Suno right away. Sometimes I'll go to Claude, try to tweak it a bit, and then shove that in there. But it's because I don't have the background, right? So I'm just like, I need something that covers this point, this point, this point, make it funny or make it sad. But yeah, do you use anything like that? And have you noticed which models are better?
Yes, I think Claude models in general are just better at being in touch with human speech, like just in general for code for everything. So I do think they're better at creating lyrics. When these models first came out, or when I was crafting the first workshop, the models just weren't great at creating lyrics. I also think let me say this first. I also have a bias because I've been writing lyrics for a long time, and I think there's like a certain human touch or like personal message that I'm always trying to put in lyrics. So I'm probably not the best resource for like which models are best because like I just have a bad habit of like I'll just try and do that part myself, especially when I'm crafting my own music. But I do think Claude is, especially 3.7. It's overzealous like with code and with lyrics. But I think it's really really good at helping you bring home points that you're trying to integrate with. Like if you have an overall message or like some subliminal themes that you want to put in the music, it's good at like weaving them into an already existing song, if that makes sense. The one thing I can also say that you have to be careful with is that the lyrics, this has not changed. Not the lyrics, the models are not great at because they count by tokens. They're not great at counting syllables, and that's what really really matters for making sure that your music is, or your lyrics are in time with the music. So the models are just not great at that, unfortunately. And I think so. I have seen other people in the community that are trying to create data sets that are able to fine tune models for them to recognize syllables instead. But I haven't seen anything from any major research labs that like is super useful in that area. So you just kind of have to hope Claude gets it right, and then take out a syllable or two and make the adjustments. But they are good for like weaving in messaging. I can't say that much.
Like the joke songs they're saying to a friend, they do a pretty good job of, even if it's the incorrect amount of syllables, kind of making it work in a way or dragging something out of it. It just depends on what
Yes.
level of perfection you're looking for. Would you mind giving us a little demo, walking through like how you actually go through the process?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I put up all the services that are easily accessible to folks here on Suno is where we got started, or how I typically get started. And I'll go to, the one thing I was actually gonna do. Let me make sure I have that pulled up as well. I had in my slides a couple of use cases,
Nice.
and I wanted you to help me like pick. I thought it would be cool to make a tool use song. I did like I think that would be pretty cool. But you can use them for education. I think of this. I think of like AI generated music like this. Like these are songs that otherwise would not exist. So like why not like go crazy? Like this is stuff that people just wouldn't take the time to make manually as a human. So like the floor is open. Whatever direction you think we should take, and then I'll show you my process for creating.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. Quick note on that too. I definitely see people's concern around the ethics behind AI generated music versus real artists. But that you're absolutely right. The counterfactual isn't I will choose a human or an AI to make it. It's I'm not going to make the song a real thing. But with AI,
Yes.
now there's a thing that exists. I
Yes.
love the idea of a tool use song. So let's do that. Just something about teaching people about AI tools they can use.
Okay. Awesome. 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 Okay. So help me write a song about tool. So while Claude's doing that, we'll go ahead and use our regular old normal human prompts, and then see what Claude's able to come up with. Actually, while I'm at it, we'll put a couple of things to work for us. Perplexity is another service I like to use. So, because I think models are unfortunately better at making prompts than humans are right now. And I think they're only going to get better.
Yeah.
Like the model maybe know how to talk to models better. So this is another fun thing. But those two prompts should have us on our way. And then I'll compare that with one thing I love to do is like take the same exact prompt and put it in multiple services to see like which song comes out the best.
Totally.
Um, so I will also take that prompt and say, I'm going to edit this down because I think it's fairly verbose. And actually, the core of it is here. It should be fun. So I'm thinking like 90 p.m. first. Let's see if this is stuff. The hook first thing is not something I typically do, but I'll try it.
Okay, nice. And even like the BPM, just as this generously goes through, music theory and whatnot, where do you think people, if they want to get a little more creative, should explore first? Like, is the beats per minute something that people should really start like trying to pay attention to and hear how it affects songs, or there is anything else like that?
Yeah, so I've had to do this as a human, like, and I think my understanding of music increased a lot when I started to, and I've been doing this since a kid, but I didn't know what I was actually doing. But now as an adult, I can almost explain. But like, yeah, tapping the BPM, there's a service I have that I love to use for when you hear a song, you can tap and it'll tell you the BPM. There's all kinds of services online that will analyze a song and tell you the BPM, but this is like you can get it done in like 5 seconds, right? Like you can kind of like get the general idea of what a BPM is. And then if you pay attention to like my BPM, like my core, the music that I love is typically around 60 BPM. Um,
Nice.
and I think you start to recognize patterns as you listen to the music you love, and you're like, hey, I wonder what BPM that is, and or you can either go Google it if it's a popular song, but sometimes like I listen to a lot of underground music, so I have to like go tap the BPM manually, and I've just recognized so many patterns over the years of like what I really like, or like the mood that I'm trying to be in, and what correlates with that BPM. So yeah, I think that's something that really important to pay attention to. I think key is another thing that's also important in chords, but much more there's I don't it's not more technical that it's just a lot harder to analyze those things compared to BPM. But BPM will get you very far in my opinion in terms of music and understanding and prompting for sure.
Totally. And even I find when I'm listening to certain electronic music, I'm like, how would I describe that? Like what type of drum is actually going on in the background? And just trying to like
Yeah.
more analyze the music I'm listening to because it's something I've never been very into music in regards to like analyzing and performing it. It's just like a change of emotional state for me. So I'm like, if it gets me fired up, that's what I want. Like, check. But actually thinking like, how is it doing this? It's just been a whole new way to like look at music.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think that's the cool thing about this whole process too, like that maybe most musicians don't look at it this way, but I think it forces you to understand the underlying mechanics of music. It really, or at least think about them. Like maybe if even if you don't understand them deeply, you think about them in a way that you have not thought before, and then that creeps into the prompts. It creeps into your creation and your so it to me it's just lowering the barrier to creating music, and you do it is a gateway where you start to think like I wonder more about this. Let me go, and now we have the tools where you have the perplexities and the clause where they can kind of like break down these complex subjects in a way that you understand it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it does get a lot of hate. I think it'll continue to get a lot of hate, but I think it is an amazing way for you to like find what you really like about music, and it force you to identify those things and get better at bringing them about.
Yep.
So I'm going to make sure that my volume's down so we don't get our ears blown out, and then I'm going to play this first generation from Suno.
Plug it in and let it flow. The power you need, it starts to grow. Speak your mind, let curiosity fly. Teaching the world to AI.
So I'll cut it there because I kind of wanted to see what the other version of it was. There are two thoughts on this. I think it's very interesting that the model chose to put two verses next to each other. Like I think I would have done like chorus, verse, as opposed to putting another verse, and then you typically do chorus into a bridge. So like that's another thing I think. Like they make interesting choices when it comes to the lyrics a lot of times, but there's something you can edit and like the editor on here is actually really cool. We should probably cover the editor. But is that all right if I like cut them off early? Like don't play the full song. Like we just kind of get the gist of it and see what the other services have created.
Yeah, 100%. What we can, I think with Suno you can link the song. So if you want to listen to more, we can always put it in the description.
Okay. Awesome.
Plug it in and let it flow. The power you need, it starts to grow. Speak your mind, let curiosity fly. Teaching the world to AI.
That was fire. Okay, before it gets into the verse, I like that one way better than the first one. I like that one way better. How I would typically approach this is make some changes if I see fit, and because it's a song that I think you could potentially use for like a tool use intro or whatever, I also would probably want to shorten it. So we can use this crop function. It takes a while to get the song loaded in, but yeah. So essentially, replace section is where you can highlight. I think the minimum they lowered it recently to maybe 3 seconds or so, but I think you can highlight any, let's just say 10-second section and say what you want to change about that section of music, whether it be like to change the lyrics or let's change. I don't want the piano there. I want the guitar there. Or you can instruct the model to make changes on your behalf, which is really cool. It's very hit or miss. Like sometimes you get exactly what you had in your head, and then other times you'll just burn through credits generating section after section after section. So that's one thing to be careful about. But the replace section is probably the coolest tool in here. Everything else is almost like standard digital audio workstation stuff. But you can also the extend feature is cool. That's also new. Because the Suno models, the V4 model specifically, 3.5 was like this as well, but the V4 model is already creating full, 3 to sometimes 5-minute songs, 4-minute songs. You don't necessarily, I don't use the extend section a lot unless I'm trying to extend, like let's say I wanted the chorus to be longer, the verse to be longer, but typically you want to crop more than anything, so I don't use this section as much. And the remove I think is very specifically about instruments, if I'm not mistaken. And fade out is a new feature that they added recently where you can like instead of having like the model already does a good job at this. So I don't think this fade out section is also as useful either. But like the fade out is for, let's say the intro, the chorus, and verse number 1 is perfect to you for a tool use intro for a tool use theme song. You can now take and fade out verse 2 um and instead of having this abrupt cut, you'll like the song will naturally fade out. So it's useful for certain use cases. If you want to make this the song shorter, or the song that you've already generated ends abruptly and you want to fade it out. Again, like the models have gotten a lot better at this recently, so the fade out section is just like not all that useful in my opinion. But yeah, this is how I think about
Nice.
the tools anyways. Can we okay, replace is now loaded. So let's say, like, I was actually gonna reprompt for this, but let's say
And sorry, do you have the ability to edit the lyrics at this point, or is it just like the segments of song?
no, yeah. Replace section is you can edit the lyrics. Like if I go in and say generate replacements, and these are technically entirely new generations, so it uses that amount of credits, number one, and number two, it kind of also crowds up the library as you're creating music in Suno. So one thing that they've also implemented within the last few weeks is like a workspace section. So we didn't go over that because we haven't like gone to look at my library quite yet, or like gotten to that part of it. But essentially, actually, while it's generating, it's already done. But just so it makes a little bit more sense, here you can create workspaces now, because typically everything was in the same workspace, and if you generate a lot of music, like this can get a little bit chaotic, if that makes sense. So you can make a workspace specifically for, let's say we have tool use live, and then you can put all of not only the original generations, but like your edits, that the replacements that you're doing, the fade outs, the if you want to swap one section with another, all of those brand new generations can now go into the same workspace.
Plug it in and let it flow. The power you created
Yeah, so as you can see there, I finally like replaced the word that we were trying to replace. So you can definitely edit lyrics, and like let's say that you didn't like the drums in that section and you wanted the drums to do like a breakdown. You also can let's see, um, talk about the styles that you want to include or exclude. So like again, hit or miss, but I'm going to attempt to how about this? Let's add symbols. It may not fit. It'll probably sound out of place, but I'm going to try and add some symbols in this chorus section.
Well, this is really cool about the creativity you get with this. You can try anything and be like, you never know what's going to stick. And I also like that the
Yes.
replacements are kind of generated separately. Then you can choose to apply it, so you can generate 10 variations. Be like, oh, that's the one. Pull it into the original song without having to redo the whole song 10 times.
I wonder it'll do like if it'll like as far as timing goes. Cause like I have like where the crashes would go in my head. Like if I had a digital audio workstation open, I'm like, okay, let me put the crashes here. But let's see.
Plug it in and let it flow. The power you create, it starts to grow. Speak your mind, let curiosity fly. Teaching the world to AI.
Okay, that was a crash. Okay, I can't complain. It got the job done. I feel like I don't like the drums as much now, so I'm probably not gonna apply that replacement. I feel like the original drums are much better. But this is just an example of like how you can use this tool and like how creative you can be with it.
Love that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it just come a long way since last year, because like the editor wasn't even in Suno last year when I was doing the workshop. So it just come a long way. It still has its kinks like to work out, and lots of bugs from time to time, but it's a very cool tool for like being able to edit generations. I can't say that much.
Yeah, and you had mentioned burning through credits. I see in your account you got 10K. Seems like plenty. What would be like a typical monthly usage for either you or someone who maybe takes it a bit less intensely?
Yeah, so they have a couple of different plans for like Suno, and I would say the $10 a month plan is probably enough for like I use the $10 a month plan for definitely more than a year, and I've never, even on the $10 a month plan, I've never run out of credits. So
Nice.
it's more than enough.
And is the only difference credits, or do you get access to like premier models or anything like that if you go up?
Yeah, so for the Premier plan, you typically like I think considered a beta user, and you do get access to some of the tools. I think you can provide feedback to the team as well. There's like I don't quote me on this, but it's either Suno or Udio that gives you a badge in Discord, so you get like different channels or whatever. Yeah, but that's the gist of my creation with Suno, as you can kind of see. Like we come up with some general ideas, like use a model to kind of like flesh out the prompts. I think you just have so much more control when you add the lyrics, but it does take a bit more. It's more a little bit more intensive than like, yo, I want to make a song for my dad. You know, trash talking the other team, like the opposing team. That's like quick, easy. You can throw in a prompt. Like you could prompt it in the span of a couple minutes. You could probably prompt it 10 times and finally get like close enough to like something that's easy to send off. As you get a little bit more granular, and again, you want that fine tuning, that control. I think you really are just better off like putting your own lyrics in, kind of like having that control from the beginning when generating new music. So that's my opinion on Suno, and really for Udio and Riffusion as well. Like I see it's much the same. Like 'cause starting with lyrics and like the BPM, and again it's a little bit more nerdy when it comes to the music stuff and like knowing what technical terms to use. But like starting with those things gives you a lot more control when it comes to generating songs.
Yeah, and before we move on to the next one, I just as soon as I see styles and whatnot, I'm curious if you've personally done any like weird crossovers or any like blends that you thought were just experimental that actually worked.
I tend to really stick to like the core music that I know well, because I feel like I'm just not a great. I have tried some weird stuff. I'll be honest, but it's not something that I would listen to on a regular basis. So it's not something that like struck a chord with me personally.
Right.
You know what I mean? But definitely like a certain part of my family is from Mexico. Like my wife is Mexican. So I typically like if I'm gonna play around, like if I want to get on her nerves, I'll like combine my stuff with like Mexican music, bachata, like the different styles of Mexican music, and like that stuff comes out really interesting. But yeah, it's definitely experimental, and I don't know. I guess it depends. It like music is so subjective, right? Like maybe there's an audience out there for it. It's just like not me personally. You know what I mean? But I have tried. I will say like probably my craziest. I'd have to go back to. I do so much more of this stuff in Udio than Suno, just because like I like the songwriting process in Udio. But my craziest crossover so far probably is like I tried to do um movie music. I got into sync licensing a while back, like which is like essentially licensing your music for movies and TV. And I tried to do a combination of like I think it was movie theater scores and like reggae music, and that turned out super interesting.
Nice.
It is a cool community because I will say like the explore tab can also give you ideas in terms of like what other people are generating as well. So I think that's something to check out. Like that's how I found the prompt master people that I was talking about. So I will say that I don't think it's quite tight knit of a community as like let's say Mid Journey, where they had everything kind of going in Discord. But there's definitely like a community of Suno generators as well as like audio generators. They're much one and the same. But
Yeah, there's some wild ones here.
yes, yeah, yeah. Bengali American primitive.
Nirbaksora Sonali.
This is sweet though, but this is what I was kind of talking about with the I don't know what you call it, fusions, crossovers, hybrids,
Yes.
where it's just like anything that you can think of creatively, you can put into here and see what comes out the other side.
Yeah, definitely. I would say this is a much better resource than me for like trying to like attempting crossovers, because some of Mandarin acid trance is crazy. Crime surf rock, chill sentimental. Yeah, some of these are crazy. Saxophone barbershop. I can't imagine.
In a world buzzing, fading, shaping style, silver tongue saxophones jive and beguile.
Okay, I'll take it. Hindi acoustic rock.
जीत मैं है जीवन की कहानी सरहद पे.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
One cool thing. So one of my favorite parts about Suno, it was the first tool that I showed my dad, and that like first AI tool that he just clicked with him. He took a lot of his songs he wrote back in the day, put them in, was able to generate it, and now every family occasion comes with a song for him, which is really funny. And we have a cousin out in Montreal. Just recently had a kid, the first one of that new generation. But their last name, Lamoureux, being a French name with English lyrics, Suno had a bit of trouble with that. And he just had to get creative with how you spell it and how you tweak it. So it's really interesting how all you have to do is kind of go through trial and error, run a few different things, and just tweak it to be like what you want to hear. And then you get cool things out of it.
That's actually the last slide is like, I think you have to try this stuff. Like, there's no amount of tutorials and like that you could watch. Like, it's a great introduction, don't get me wrong, but like until you actually start to come in and like tweak and play and see what's possible, like it's very hard to explain. Like, I have a couple of friends that like, obviously I'm a musician. I have a bunch of musician friends, artists, producers, like, on both sides, and almost all of them had like these notions about what AI music was until I had to force them to sit down, open the browser. I'm literally sharing screen like I am with you now, and I'm like, let's make something. Like, let's see what this process is. And almost all of them had their minds blown when they saw like what it actually was compared to like, oh, you know, you hear in the news what the AI music and it's gonna, you know, destroy the industry and it's this and that. And it's like, yeah, I think it's much different than what people make it out to be if they have not tried these things extensively. You know what I mean? So very very similar stories with my friends and like them. Like it kind of clicked as soon as you start to generate stuff. You're like, wow, like, and then they're like, I would never take the time that it takes us as humans to create a full song about this topic or this for this event for this company or whatever it may be. But now if I can like type it in and like get it done in 15, 30 seconds or whatever it may be, like I'll throw a couple prompts in there, you know what I mean, and see how it turns out. So I think that's what's really cool about these services, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things like I use it kind of like you're saying, generate group chat songs, something just make the boys laugh, and it's great. One use case I haven't seen actually used yet, but I guarantee you we'll get soon, is when you're walking through a department store that kind of have that, you know, the top 40 radio music they kind of hear. I can't, well, I can't, I wouldn't be surprised if very soon they're going to start like subliminally putting ads in there where it'll be like a custom song for Walmart or whatever, and it'll just like subtly mention the sales or things you got to check out. And people will just be going along, not even paying attention, and just have that kind of like floating in. So for better or for worse, I think there's going to be a lot more customized, but also just like music originally, like centralized creation, centralized distribution, like recording studio and then record store or radio. Then with things like Spotify or Apple Music, all of a sudden you get decentralized creation with pretty much centralized distribution. But now anyone can just make a song and send to whoever. And it's been this unique path of things becoming more and more custom, where it used to be people generally like the same music and then people like their little subgenres of music. Now it'll be songs that I like that no one else in the world has even heard except for like maybe my group of friends. And it's just such an interesting progression how we're getting more and more accustomed to whatever it is that we like.
Yep, absolutely. And I think we touched on that earlier. Like this is music that just would not exist. Like half of these combinations, or probably more than half, like maybe have not even been attempted by a human. You know what I mean? So it's just like exploration and again possibilities that didn't exist before. So yeah, I think I think it's net positive. I think like maybe the way that these models are trained and like some of the music that's being used to create the models is like where it gets like, you know, moral gray area. But yeah, that's I try to reserve my opinions on that, like my comments on that, because like I think I just want to let it play out in the court system how it does, and then we can kind of like see, you know, from there. But I think net positive though, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Was there anything else you wanted to show us?
I mean, how do you feel about trying out some of the other services? Do you think you have time for it, or what?
Yeah, let's just do a quick run through, just make sure people are familiar with how they can use the tools. Like you said, they're kind of better for shorter things. So maybe instead of a full song, we just generate a bit of output.
I did kind of want to break down. I mean, one thing about it, I did the workshop last year at the AI Engineer event, and for more of a history or a background, if you want to see live examples of how these things kind of like came about, or if you want to see more concrete examples of like all of the different types of AI music or styles of AI music, I would say to refer back to that video, because like I think foundationally, like I covered way more ground than we did in this interview, which is okay. Like I love the direction we took in this interview, but like if you do want to see some more examples, it's a great resource at AIEtalk.com/music will get you not only the video, but also like my original slides, the transcript if you like to like feed it to a model and ask questions. And then these slides, I've named PDF on this page, and it'll take you back here. But that's a nice resources basically that you can find. I'll also say the notes is basically all of the it's my cited sources. As I kind of like compiled all of the notes for the workshop, I put them all in this one location. I've also updated. There was a couple broken links, and then I've also put in links to any of these services that we talked about today, as well as the open source models. If you have the machine, if you have the hardware and you want to download it, this is also a great resource. So anything that we don't cover today, or I maybe mentioned, or you were wondering about, I just ask that you refer to the notes. And if there's something specific, please put it in the comments. Like that is like my one call to action. We kind of like veered away from like the slides and the notes, but all of this stuff is here if you want it as a resource to go find. I will also say, just because we mentioned some of the legality or like the morality of AI generated music, I have all kinds of links here in terms of like the policy that the government's kind of like forming. I actually have some stuff to update here as well, because like as recently as last month, the U.S. Copyright Office came out and made that a little bit more clear what their stance is on can AI generated music be copyrighted. So we didn't get into the weeds of this stuff, but it's all here. I've kind of like tried to compile a nice like archive or repository of information if you are more interested in that side of things. That being said, I think we can kind of go into Udio unless you had any other comments about it. Or
phenomenal resource. We'll link it down below to make it easier to be able to find, because having a resource like that is super valuable.
Awesome. Udio also has like an editing process. In my experience, it doesn't quite. We'll see when the generation finishes. I'll kind of show you some of the editing stuff that they have in here. I can say overall, much like Suno, it's like under construction, hit or miss, whether or not you get like the results like the results you have in your head. But it's still cool, like creative tools that you can use.
Like you were alluding to earlier, there's just less development in the space, so little slower to catch up. But there is one of those aspects where when people can like feel it and feel a connection to it, it just seems to resonate so much stronger. So I hope there's more innovation in the space, because it's something that I think people will get a lot of value out of.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to I mean, they let me do multiple generations at a time, so let me see if I can put the rock version into here.
Running on fumes, these gears grind to a halt. In the chaos we find our way, we rise. Shadows fading under darkened skies. Tools in our hands to stop our own fate.
Yeah, even that they're like skipping sections of we can try again with like lyrics just to see if it turns out any better. And I'm going to try and format it how Udio likes it. Minor edits here and see what comes out. One question I should have asked the model, what I think maybe Suno benefits from like having the BPM as a part of the prompt.
That makes sense.
It kind of went off on a tangent. And then Riffusion is much the same. I guess like that's one thing I can't say about all the tools. Like it's they all have like they're all like little quirks between them, but for the most part it's this process. It's like typing in the general style or genre, and then sending that off, or general style and genre as well as lyrics, and seeing how that goes.
Artificial intelligence revolution. Sit in the dark with a blinking cursor, error messages flashing, couldn't get much worser. Then I found this podcast that changed my life. You taught me how to end my strife. AI revolution. Don't fear the automation. AI revolution.
Okay.
Just learn the right intention. You showed me how to write these prompts. No more digital nightmares haunting my thoughts.
Hey, I'll take it.
Man, yeah, and just even alternating from the band to just the singer, love it.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's more the like I said, I show you the prompt master guy. You can get really detailed with that stuff as you kind of put in like whatever you put in brackets. I think kind of like really steers the model. So you can have
Nice.
like a chorus and then put like choir and then or backup singer or whatever it may be to kind of like force that out of the generation out of the model. But it's cool how sometimes it will like generate that stuff on its own. I'll make sure I send you the links to all these so you can kind of like have the editor and for the audience if they want to take a listen. I think the one thing that comes to mind the most on this is like I would probably coax Claude to write lyrics that are a little bit shorter that could fit in this tempo better. And then I would try and like more like a heavier integration of the word tool use. Like we want that in the chorus or whatever. So if this is me like, I really want to make a tool use theme song. Like those are the changes I would make. You know what I have to do? Maybe offline, I'll like really put in a bunch of effort into like making a better tool use song, and then send that over. A couple different versions of it and see what you think.
Not gonna say no. Would love to put it up.
Yeah, I guess my main message to the audience, or like for anyone that has like their reservations about AI generated music, like I think the one thing I have told my friends is that like it's coming one way or another. Like I think it's just best to embrace it. You know what I mean? Like the change is coming one way or another. Like AI is here to stay. Whether or not you think it's moral, I think is one thing. But like I would say, embrace it. Come join us in the water is what I would say. If you haven't yet and you love music, I would say to like try some of the tools out. If you hate it, no, so be it. But I think it's important to try it out at the very least. And I would also say that like I would not have got into music as much as I am now if it weren't for the barriers being lowered 20 years ago. Like I lived in Germany at the time. I was able to go to our base exchange and go buy an $8 microphone. And I messed up my mom's computer trying to like jam a card into the PCIe slot. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't for those things being affordable, I just wouldn't have access to music as I have now. You know what I mean? So I think like, I want to pay it forward, and there might be other people that love music but may not have the time or the energy to like put in the effort to like learn an instrument or learn how to write music from scratch, but they still can like create music that they enjoy and they love. So that's kind of like my overall message, I think, to everyone. And for your audience specifically, man, I know you guys have a bunch of smart people that watch this podcast. I've like watched a few other episodes myself, and I think my call to action there is like, when you are creating music with AI, what difficulties are you running into? Like what do you have the most trouble with? And because again, that just helps me. If you could leave that in the comments, I would love that as like some feedback, so I can further tailor these talks and workshops. So that's all I really got.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I encourage everyone to do the same. Loved your point about people just diving in. I encourage everyone, make a song. Just find something that you're learning about right now or something that you're interested in and just make a song. Then afterwards go see some live music and support the artist that way. That way you can kind of bounce both ways. Dude, this was a lot of fun. Really appreciate you coming on. Before I let you go, how can the audience keep up with you? What any other message for them?
I am on Twitter under Young Phlo, so you can send me music here. It's just YOUNGPHLO_. And then like for the resources themselves, if you just go to AIEtalk.com/music, that's where you can find all of the extra information that we didn't touch on in here in the interview.
Absolutely. And in case everyone's curious, all the music in this episode is AI generated. So if there's anything you like, let us know.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.